The 18th century was a time when opera evolved from being a purely aristocratic entertainment to a medium that challenged power structures, explored human reason, and symbolized freedom. Operas during this time were often used to critique monarchy, inequality, and rigid social structures, reflecting Enlightenment principles such as reason, justice, and individual liberty. Light against darkness. Light represented reason and knowledge, while darkness symbolized ignorance and tyranny. Nature and the garden often seen as a metaphor for purity, enlightenment, and human harmony. Magic and mysticism used to symbolize wisdom, transformation, or divine intervention. Costumes and colors: gold and purple for royalty and power, white for innocence, and dark cloaks for deception and manipulation. Perhaps the most symbolic opera of the 18th century, the Magic Flute Die Zauberflöte by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, is often interpreted as an allegory for Enlightenment philosophy and Freemasonry. The Magic Flute and the Silver Bells. Music symbolizes harmony, order, and reason overcoming chaos. Light against darkness. The protagonist, Tamino, moves from ignorance, darkness, to knowledge, light, reflecting the Enlightenment's belief in reason and progress. The Temple of Wisdom represents intellectual enlightenment and moral virtue. Inspired by Masonic ideals, 3 trials. The hero must go through tests of fire, water, and air, symbolizing the journey toward truth and wisdom. Unlike the Magic Flute, which was mystical, the Marriage of Figaro was a revolutionary opera that used satire and symbolism to critique the corrupt aristocracy. Symbolism in the Marriage of Figaro. Figaro, as the common man, represents the rise of the lower classes against the aristocracy. The Count's deception symbolizes the decay of absolute monarchy, a foreshadowing of the French Revolution. The garden scene, a place of disguise, mischief, and truth, symbolizing the natural state of humanity versus the rigid rules of society. This opera was banned in some places because it mocked the privileges of the noble class, a dangerous message just a few years before the French Revolution, 1789. Don Giovanni is another opera filled with symbolism about power, morality, and the supernatural. Symbolism in Don Giovanni. The statue of the Commendatore represents divine justice, punishing Don Giovanni for his sins. Don Giovanni's fate, his descent into hell, symbolizes the fall of the immoral aristocracy, a common theme in Enlightenment literature. The Masquerade Ball. Masks symbolize deception and hidden identities. A critique of the hypocrisy of the elite. This opera reflects the growing idea that morality applies to all, not just the lower classes, and that abuse of power would have consequences. This opera by Christoph Willibald Gluck is one of the most symbolic operas of the 18th century, redefining opera as a form of pure emotional storytelling. Symbolism in Orfeo ed Eurydice. Orpheus's lyre, music as a divine power that can move even the gods. The underworld against the world of the living represents the struggle between despair and hope, the power of love. The opera suggests that love and faith can triumph over death, but only through wisdom and self-restraint. Unlike earlier operas, which were heavily ornamental and extravagant, Gluck simplified the music and storytelling, reflecting the Enlightenment's desire for clarity, reason, and human emotion. By the late 18th century, opera was no longer just entertainment. It was a tool for social commentary. Operas started questioning authority. Composers used humor and drama to criticize kings and aristocrats. Mythology and history were reinterpreted. Ancient myths were used to discuss modern ideas like democracy, justice, and individual rights. In the 17th century, opera was a spectacle of divine intervention, fate, and religious allegory. Stories revolved around gods, kings, and dramatic supernatural events, reinforcing the idea that power was unquestionable. In the 18th century, opera became a medium of reason, social criticism, and human emotion. Instead of gods punishing humans, stories focused on people challenging power, exploring love, and seeking knowledge. Many of these operatic symbols still shape modern storytelling. Light and darkness, used in cinema to symbolize knowledge against ignorance, masquerade and disguise, a common theme in modern films about deception, the power of music. Movies and shows use music the same way operas did to move emotions and tell stories. Even though opera is centuries old, its symbols and themes remain deeply relevant. The struggle between power and justice, ignorance and knowledge, love and fate continues to inspire art, music, and film today. Which opera do you think best represents 18th century Enlightenment ideals? Do you see any of these symbols in modern movies or books? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more hidden symbolism in history and art.